but is this something that will help me with my brand, right? Is this something that would make sense for me? Is this something that I would get value from? I think, for full transparency, whether it's media, whether it is work opportunities, I'm always thinking about, okay, how does this situation help everyone that's involved, right? Does this make sense for my brand, and does this help me? And then also, would me being a part of this help that person in some way? I'm always thinking that. And then sometimes I just do projects just to, to help out. Like sometimes my friends need help, and it could be something that's super small, and it has nothing really to do with the overall goals that I have, and I want to do it because out of the kindness of my heart. Or there's I got contacted by a high schooler who said, I'm starting my podcast. I've been doing all this podcast. I've been working hard. And they asked me to be a guest. And I said, yeah, because at the end of the day, when I was a high schooler, I had people in the industry who took their time to help me and took their time to be a part of the content I'm doing. And so I'm always supportive of the youth when they put in the work and they do it the right way, right? So I always try to help in that way. But it's always about just evaluating every single situation you're in.
That's awesome, man. That's some key points that you brought up in those statements. So let's kind of go backwards. I know we went down the journalism road, and that's an important road for you, and I feel like in your life too. Let's talk about your parents were computer scientists, and when did that love for gaming evolve? Did they push gaming on you, or did they support it, or? Because I've been paying attention to your posts, Erin. You're like a real game head. I thought, it was just a journalism piece and that you were gamer, but it looks like you've been gaming for a long time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So the first video game, from my recollection, that I played was Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis, and that was when I instantly fell in love. Part of me getting into gaming was because I have an older brother, and everything that he does, I'm always I want to do it too, right? And it's funny because he's the reason why I started playing soccer, because he played soccer, and then I was I want to play soccer, and I played soccer, and then he stopped and then played football, and I was still stuck on soccer. I also did track and basketball, but soccer was my thing. And so with that, growing up, my mom, at times it was difficult because when I was young, I was going through such a self-discovery journey because my parents were divorced. My dad is predominantly black. My mom's black too, but she's also Puerto Rican. And I grew up more with my Latin side than the other side. I mean, of course, I have family members who are black on both ends, but I grew up more so around my Puerto Rican Latin culture. And so even with me growing up, right, I struggled to identify with certain things that predominantly black households go through. I didn't really have those experiences, right? Then I also dealt with the issues of being mixed and not being black enough or not being Puerto Rican enough. And so during that time growing up, I struggled with sometimes connecting with people, especially with my mom being sick. I had to grow up faster than most kids my age. And so it was hard for me to relate to people. But video games allowed me to connect with everyone. And video games actually were the beginnings of me establishing certain relationships and friendships with people IRL and as well as online. And so for me, video games were a way for me to cope with some of the stuff that I was dealing with as a kid, whether it was moments when my mom was sick or, there were times when I was younger that I got bullied, right? And so video games were that sanctuary for me. And because of that, I would always play. Me and my brother would always play together. I remember there were nights late at night, on the weekends, we would turn off the lights and play Resident Evil and get freaked out. And do that, or Metal Gear Solid, and having our anxiety on point because we got identified and what is that in Metal Gear. So video games ended up being something that I fell in love with because it was something that helped me to connect with everyone, and it helped me to form a relationship with my brother and form relationships with other people. And then my parents were always supportive. I was always doing the right thing. I always did well in school. I trained a lot in soccer. And so my parents are the kind of people that wanted us to try different things. They wanted us to be, quote unquote, Renaissance kids, where it's like we grow up to be well-rounded in the sense of not being afraid of having passions that are not, quote unquote, typical at that time, and learning about different things, and ultimately making us more well-rounded people, whether it's in life or just in business, right? And so my mom was always someone who allowed us to play video games, and as long as we did what we needed to do for grades and stuff, she would allow us to play video games for hours and hours and hours during the weekends. Because as we get our homework done, if we're doing well in tests, she's like, why am I going to take away something that is good for you if you're still doing everything you need to do? And so the video games have always been such an instrumental part of my life, and it was something that helped me get through some of the hardest moments in my life, and also has brought some of the funnest moments in my life.
That's awesome. And so Erin, I'm actually a teacher as well. So I'm at Southern University Laboratory School, which is the Laboratory School of Southern University in Baton Rouge. And, to be honest, we're 100% black at the school, and I introduced an esports program this year. Like, what would you say to a parent that's kind of on the fence about the kid getting into gaming, the whole esports scene, and like your take on like what's the future, what's to come, and why it's so critical for a kid to get into it now than later?
Well, I think it's so important, there's certain skill sets and things that they can learn through esports and gaming that can be applied, even if they don't want to have a career in it, that can be applied to other areas, right? Networking.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many relationships that you can get from just building, playing with people. And those relationships, some of those people can grow up to be the people that you connect with via, LinkedIn or anything like that. Also, the one thing I realized also is there's a lot of people, especially in the gaming community, they're very responsive when it comes to LinkedIn and building that opportunity. And the great thing about gaming and esports is that kids can have internship opportunities and work opportunities, and they don't even have to be in California or wherever these companies are. It can be remote too. Also,
True.
Teaching kids proper etiquette of social media, teaching kids how to be able to do public speaking. It's funny because even like on Twitch, right, it teaches you how to talk in front of people. And there's certain things that can be utilized for just life in general. And I think also right now we're seeing a lot when it comes to diversity and inclusion. That's always been kind of a difficult pain point for the gaming esports industry, but we're starting to see that companies are trying to fix that. So now there's going to be a lot more opportunities for kids, especially black kids, to get in the space. Like, look, for me, for example, right, if you look at a lot of the esports broadcasters or analysts and commentators, like, they're predominantly white. And not to say that they didn't work hard for those opportunities. That's not a shade on them, but that's just showing you, like, where there's still room for improvement, right? That inclusion begins also with bringing people from different backgrounds and ethnicities and orientations and bringing them to the behind the scenes or in front of the camera. Like, for me, it's mind-blowing that when you think about, predominantly broadcast and publicized esports and gaming productions, right? You have me, you have Malik Forte, you have what's her name, Mika. You have a few of us, right? And it's crazy to even think that in this space, it's like, wow, compared to every single broadcaster, analyst, commentator, there's only a few of us who are part of these esports leagues or are part of these big production works. Now, of course, on a smaller level, in terms of Twitch streamers, there's various different ones. But we also have to look at different areas, right? Especially like if inclusion needs to be implemented not only in the lower tier areas, but also the higher tier areas, right? The higher opportunities, the bigger brands, the bigger esports leagues. So that's just something that it's starting to get better, and so I see that there's an opportunity for that. Also, there's colleges that are now working on developing esports programs and scholarships and degrees that are teaching kids STEM, teaching kids certain things. It's now being implemented into colleges, so it's kind of like at that point where parents can no longer say it's a waste of time. When kids can actually get free education with it, when kids can actually get assistance, financial assistance from going to it. And there's some kids that, a very small percentage that can go and make millions and millions of dollars. and get paid just as much or even more than actual pro athletes, traditional sports athletes. And so I think that, like, the argument that gaming is a waste of time is done. Like, we're in a period of time where that's done. You know,
it's
obviously
over.
everything in moderation is important, but it's over at this point. You can't make an excuse for not allowing your child to explore this area when there's scholarships, when they can go to college for it, when they can go pro for it. Like, there's just no excuse anymore. And I think that instead of treating it like it's a bad thing, you know, if your kid is passionate about Fortnite, get him or her, you know, involved within that. Watch competitions with them. Find out what college programs compete in Fortnite. You know, there are all these different pipelines and opportunities are being developed right now, and it's better to you know, work with it, work with your kid on it than to treat it like it's not. And if anything, if they're very passionate about playing on college and stuff like that, then you should allow them to train the same way that you allow your kids to go to practice for basketball, right? Obviously, they're going to practice during a certain amount of time, and your kids should understand that. But it's all based upon your kids. Also based upon, you know, for parents, right? Like, I'm not a parent, but based off of what my parents have done, like, you know your kid better than anyone else does. So you can moderate and figure out how many hours and all that stuff works best for your kid, right? Ultimately, it's what your house rules are and what works best for them. But at the same time, find that nice middle ground. Find that way where you still have certain rules that you set in your house, but also create opportunities for your kids to continue to learn. You know, and if they want to, like, do more Fortnite stuff, maybe there's educational stuff that you can find online and allow them to watch that. Set up a certain time where, you know, you can be a part of that learning experience with them. I think that's the most important thing. As long as you're part of that experience and don't make your kid feel like, you know, that you don't care, or, you know, before a lot of us gamers were chastised or called nerds or bullied in school or something like that because you play video games. So it's just about, like, you know, just making sure your kid knows that they are supported, because honestly that has been the most tremendous thing that's helped me throughout every facet of my career. My mom never once told me, oh, your dream, that's a stupid dream, or that's ridiculous, or you can't do that, or anything. My mom always used to just tell me, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? What support do you need? Or she'll go watch, and that's the support. That's all that's needed.
That's amazing, and I'm really enjoying the interview, and I wish I had more time. I know you have a busy schedule, and I have to have you on for a part 2 at some point. So we have, like, maybe 2 minutes left in the show. Can you tell the listening audience, like, I know you're streaming now. You started streaming, and I know you're a big COD fan. Can you tell them how to reach you on social media and tell them you stream? Just plug away.
Yeah, of course. So every single social media platform, from Instagram to Twitter to TikTok, and even for Twitch, it's Erin, ERIN, the letter A, and then Simon, SIM as in mother, ON as in Nancy, Erin A. Simon. That is for everything. Twitch.tv/Erin A. Simon, Facebook page, Erin Ashley Simon. Pretty much everything is consistent across the board. My personal website, www.erinAsimon.com. You can see some of the previous work I've done and press and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's where you can find me across the board.
That's awesome. I wish you the best of luck. I had plenty of more questions. I got to have you back on at some point. Thank you, and I wish you blessings with all your endeavors.
Thank you so much for having me on. And, yeah, we can definitely do a part 2 later on.
Got it. Thanks, Erin.
All right, bye, guys.
This was another episode of Go Play Esports with Christopher Turner. Follow him on Twitter @Turner_CP.